So, if I'm comfortable in my 9 to 5 and I'm making good money and my financial situation is good and I'm achieving some of my goals, then why would I want the pain of change? So I think our pain of change was less than what we thought our pain of regret would be. Does that make sense? Welcome back to another episode with James and Angela. And before we get started, I have to just give a shout out to those who are listening and watching. We've gotten some really good feedback over the last couple weeks. We've only dropped 6 or 7 episodes up to this point when you're hearing this one. And it's been encouraging so far. Some friends and family, obviously, but some outside people that we haven't heard from in a really long time. And that's the whole goal of this podcast, of Angela and I talking about our story and eventually down the road bringing some people on to interview them. It's to build success in people's businesses, but ultimately, at the same time, build resilience in marriage. And if you can have that resilience in your marriage, your business is going to thrive. Having a resilient, strong, flourishing marriage, everything else is a byproduct from that.
Yeah.
So it's the same way we believe in our faith, that when we become a Christian or ask Jesus into our heart, our life then becomes a byproduct of what's inside of us, right? So I know we just digressed there from marriage to business over to religion really quick, but I just wanted to say thank you for those of you who are listening. We're really excited about some of the traction that we've got, and we know it's slow going, but we're really excited about it.
Yep.
So what are we going to be talking about today?
Today we're talking about a growth mindset or an abundant mindset versus a scarcity mindset, which is a really difficult topic, especially because if I'm being fully transparent and completely honest, I tend to go back and forth between the two. I haven't fully developed my abundant mindset, so it is something that I am continuing to work on in an area of growth that I am working on. So as I go through these topics, this is something that I'm currently working on. I think your mind is something that is a day-to-day struggle, right? That especially for a Christian, that's where a lot of the battle happens. But for an abundant mindset versus a scarcity mindset, when you're trained a certain way or you grow up a certain way, it's very hard to shift that mindset and those perspectives. So we're going to talk a little bit about that today. We're going to break it down into like 5 different topics, and hopefully we can shed some light on these and bring some encouragement. So the first one that we're going to dive into is shifting your perspective from the fear of loss versus gaining an opportunity, or how we often look at it as like you're limited to something versus like freedom in something now. So why don't we dive into that when it comes to business? Mm-hmm. What would you say often is like the fear in that versus the opportunity for business?
Well, I think when it comes to scarcity, in business, I think there can become this deer in the headlights fear of what could happen wrong. And you would call those people pessimists. Those people who are pessimists would call themselves realists. Okay, so if you're a realist and you're listening, you're probably a pessimist. That's just the reality, okay? And those people typically see the negative in everything. They see the glass half empty. And those individuals, I would say, have a poor mindset. Or what did you say? A fear? They have a scarcity.
There's a fear of loss. There's a scarcity mindset.
There's a scarcity mindset, a poor mindset when it comes to business and it comes to pushing forward. So for example, just in our experience with Crumble, brand new business. We were the 77th store to open. It wasn't a proven concept. It was only on the West Coast. Jeff and I and you, we didn't really know if New England would love it. We didn't know. And it's the same thing right now with pickleball as we're opening these pickleball indoor experiences. It's a brand new business. We don't know. Like, it seems like people want to do it, right? And so we could say, well, the demographics aren't high enough. The income isn't high enough in that area. Like, we could look at all these things that could be a negative detractor from the opportunity. And we could say, we're out. We're not going to do it. And then you lose that opportunity. So here's what I would say. If we did that with Crumble, someone presented us that opportunity back in 2019, and we researched it and looked into it, and we said, no, I'm afraid, I'm not going to do it. Where would we be today?
It's scary to think.
It's very scary to think, because I like the life that we have right now. Like, I enjoy it, right? And I love the team that we have and the business that we've built and the home that we're in and the travel that we get to do and the podcast that we're recording right now. Because of all of those opportunities that we said yes to, as scary as they were, as fearful as we were, as tough and as much hell as we went through, we wouldn't be where we are today if we said no.
And that scarcity mindset is a real thing, right? Like, I was definitely on that side. James is more on the optimistic side, so we tend to balance each other out. But there is that fear of like, well, we are making, prior to Crumble, right? We were doing okay. He was doing well in the financial industry. I enjoyed teaching. There was nothing wrong with what we were doing. And so there was that fear of like, if we burn these bridges, this is it.
Oh, we burnt them, baby. We exploded those bridges.
That sometimes is what you need to do for opportunities.
Yeah.
And yet I wouldn't change that. There's a quote, it's like, would you rather have the regret of...
It's either the pain of regret or the pain of change. Which one do you choose, right? And they're both very painful because think about it, like we're talking about this right now. If we said no to that opportunity and fear took over and we said, I don't think it's going to happen, it's just not going to work, people aren't going to want to eat thousands of cookies a week, which they do. The pain right now, let's say we knew a friend that decided to do it and we didn't, and we saw their trajectory. Like, how much would you kick yourself in the pants? Because here's what I would say is, we are no better than anyone else out there. We're no better than you guys watching or listening. We're no better. You could figure out how to bake a cookie. You could figure out how to help a team. You could figure out how to hire, how to fire, how to run payroll, how to do taxes, how to do bookkeeping. You could figure it out. It is not rocket science, okay? The only thing that makes us different is we took the opportunity and chose to do it.
And we
Other
said
people
yes.
didn't. We said yes.
But don't be mistaken that it did come with
a lot of pain.
A lot of pain and loss. And there is fear in that loss. So I think it is important, though, that as you're presented opportunities, you pray through them, you seek wisdom. And if the opportunity is there, to say yes. I think of some of our managers now, and we talk about this in our Crumble episode, but they started out as bakers. They said yes. I think of Jason. He said yes to the opportunity of starting out as a manager and now owns a part of the company. So had he not said yes to the opportunity,
he wouldn't have that ownership.
He wouldn't have
Love that guy, by the way. Love you, Jason.
And the same thing with some of our managers. They were willing to start out and say yes to an opportunity as a baker and burn bridges in other places to now manage multiple stores. So I think their story is kind of the same, right? They had to say no or
to a different path,
right, and decide that this was where they were.
And here's where I would, and we're talking a lot about this topic, which is great. This is this one point here. Hopefully we get to some of the other ones, but this is such a great topic and a great segue to some of the other ones, because a lot of the reason why fear holds you back is because your reason why. And I do why in quotes because why is your dream, your goals, your vision. So if your reason why, if your dreams, your goals, your visions, and all those other things aren't strong enough to pull you forward into making that decision or that opportunity, then what's going to happen is you won't end up making it. So, if I'm comfortable in my 9-to-5 and I'm making good money and my financial situation is good and I'm achieving some of my goals, then why would I want the pain of change, right? Why would I want to do that? So I think our pain of change was less than what we thought our pain of regret would be. Does that make sense?
Yeah, we wanted something more. Our desire was to grow outside of what we had. And
correct.
So that took giving up other things.
So I think that's what pushes you. Like if you're on the precipice of fear, and it's fear versus opportunity, I think if your reasons why you want to go get something or your goals are big enough, that will push you
to do it,
to not be fearful. Yes. And so I think there's always fear. We had a ton of fear. Our house is going to be gone. Any of the money, investment capital we put in there is going to be gone. We're going to start from scratch. We're going to be at the bottom. Like there's a ton of fears.
Yep.
But our goals and our reasons why we wanted to do it were strong enough to conquer that fear.
Right.
So that's what I would say is if you're really, really fearful about something, then your goals and your dreams are not clear on why you want to move forward. That's good, by the way. That needs to be chopped up into a little clip.
Well, it all takes sacrifice, right? And I think, too, something that's coming to mind is that all opportunities have, like, a fear connected to them because it's something unknown. Mm-hmm, it's something new. There's a situation in my family right now that these people have a lot of opportunities, but every single opportunity that they're presented right now comes with giving up something, sacrificing something, saying no, going backwards in some way, saying, you know, I'm going to give up this path that I've known for X amount of years and I'm going to go this way and try this new trajectory. And that's really scary. But I don't
know who you're talking about, but
that's okay.
We need to talk about it.
I just think it's important that you understand that most opportunities do come with
absolutely
fear and sacrifice. Let's jump to the second topic. The power of gratitude when unlocking an abundance mindset. I think that this is probably one of the more practical ones, but the power that gratitude has over our mindset is incredible. And I think this is something that you and I have done over the last few years. But what would you say the power of gratitude has when it comes to changing your mindset or unlocking an abundance mindset?
It keeps you in a constant grateful state. So whether you have $1 million or $10 million or $1, you're grateful that you're alive. You're grateful for breath, for air, for work, for your marriage, for your children. So you stay in this gratitude mindset of, you know, it doesn't matter how bad of a day I had at work or how bad our sales are or, you know, the fact that my wife and I are working on things. I'm grateful that I'm married. I'm grateful that we have a business. And tomorrow's going to be a tough day for whatever reason, but we're going to go through it and we're going to tackle it. So I think it just allows you to be grateful for the small things so that when the bigger things come, you're not hit with a shiny object syndrome, or you're not hit with this just bigger than thou mentality, right? I think it keeps you humble, it keeps you down to earth, it keeps you just on a level playing field, where I think people that aren't grateful or don't have gratitude in their life, I think they're very frivolous, they're very vain, they're very all about themselves instead of being grateful for what they've received. Because I don't believe we work, right? But we're given things, in our opinion, by God. And so He gave us the opportunity to get into Crumble. And then we pursued that, right? We worked it. He's not going to work it for us and just make it happen. He's giving us that opportunity, and we're going to work it, and He's going to help us through that. So I think a lot of people that don't have that mindset, they just think they did everything. The opportunity came to them because they're lucky or because of what have you. So I don't know if that's a long explanation, but the way you work on gratitude, in my opinion, what I do personally, is I write stuff down every morning. So usually write 3 or 4. I know you go through this book called 1,000 Gifts or something, which is like 3 a day, gets you to 1,000 by the end of the year.
About.
Something like that.
Yep.
Well, I'm already at 1,200 and we're only in October, so.
Pretty good. Got a lot to be thankful for.
I do have a lot to be thankful for. So I don't limit it to 3. I just like to type on my note and I just keep going. But some of them are the same. But I like to remember that and keep that refreshing in my mind of what are you thankful for? What are you most grateful for? So.
And on the other hand, I think a lot of the times, at least for me, and the reason I started 1,000 Gifts is because I do need this mindset shift. This is like probably the 4th or 5th year I've done it. So if you haven't done it, 1,000 Gifts by Ann Voskamp is a great place to start. But oftentimes I think if we have a scarcity mindset, you find that people with a scarcity mindset are also complaining a lot. And I found that to be true of myself a few years ago, was that I was constantly complaining about things, whether it was the weather or not feeling well or not having this or not having that or needing this or this wasn't good enough or what about this? And that is a scarcity mindset, because you're thinking about the things that you don't have rather than all the things that you do have, and that alone will change your mindset from scarcity to abundance. She says in the book, like, you're either doing doxology or you're doing destruction. And I found that to be so true, that you're either building up this positivity and this abundance mindset, or you're tearing yourself and others down with the destruction of just complaining and grumbling about the things that you don't have. So I think having a gratitude journal or just writing down a couple of things. We even ask our daughter. She's old enough.
I know, she does
What are you
it now,
thankful
too.
for
It's
today?
funny.
And even at her age, she knows.
Mommy, daddy.
She knows the things that she's thankful for. So
Friends.
yeah, start a list. Have your kids start a list. And I promise it will start to change your mindset on just how blessed we truly are.
Yeah.
Even just to be. So.
And there's no secret cheat code to it. There's no pattern that you need to follow. It's just, what are you thankful for today? What are you thankful for from yesterday? What are you grateful for the week, right? Or for the year, for the month? What goals have you accomplished, and what are you grateful for? So I think it's there's no cheat code and there's no rhyme or reason. I mean, there's obviously a reason, but there's no formula.
Right or wrong way to do it.
Yeah, there's no formula.
Just try to focus on gratitude versus complaining.
Correct. Yeah.
All right, the third topic we want to talk about, and this is a hard one, mindset and money reprogramming. Reprogramming your financial belief system around an abundance mindset and a scarcity mindset. This is one that I haven't fully grabbed a hold of yet, because I will say, if I'm honest, I still often have that scarcity mindset when it comes to finances and money. What are some tips, some tricks, some things that we can do, whether it be in business or in our personal lives, marriage, to kind of switch our money belief system?
I mean, I think it starts way back when you were brought up. So it starts with who parented you or who taught you about money. What do you know about money? Are you listening to your broke teachers and broke professors and broke parents or broke uncles? Or are you listening to the wealthy business guy down the street, or an uncle who has a business, or your parents who have business and are successful? Who are you letting control your mindset when it comes to those types of things? For us, or for me, when I was growing up, we grew up poor. We didn't go without food or go without clothes, but we didn't have much, right? We didn't have the TVs and the toys and the things like that. So we grew up poor, but we didn't grow up not understanding money. Parents taught us about cash and how to budget and do things like that. But they didn't teach us how to invest. They didn't teach us, the opportunity cost or the time value of money. And they didn't teach us, that, you could invest into the stock market, or you could go start a business. They didn't teach us those types of things. So I wouldn't say we had a bad upbringing when it comes financially, education-wise, but it just wasn't something that was taught. And I think most kids are not taught that stuff. I would say most kids are just a product of their environment. And unless they have a desire, a goal, or dream, like we talked about earlier, that wants to get them out of that environment, that fear, that bad mindset, into an opportunity or into abundance, then they're not going to change. And you see that every day in our inner cities and in other places where people are just stuck in this path. They don't have any other goals or dreams. They have just enough to get by, and that's it. Now, some of them do get out, which is fantastic, and they go on to just crush it. So I would say, as we're talking about the mindset of money and abundance, I think it comes back to, are you looking at the outlook of positive, or are you looking at it negative? I like to look at things positive all the time, regardless of whether I know it's going to be crappy or not. So if I know I'm going into a 12-hour day, I know it's going to be terrible. But if I have a terrible mindset going in, then everyone else around me is going to be having a terrible day as well. Whether if I go in with a positive mindset or positive attitude, with a smile on my face, that's going to make the day a lot better. It's still going to be a 12-hour day, but it's still going to be great. So I think it has to do with your environment and how you were brought up. But then the other thing that I think about when it comes to money is, what's the worst that's going to happen? I always try to think, like, what's the worst that's going to happen? If all of our businesses went under, like, I don't even know what we would do. Our business, I don't even know what the worst case scenario would be, because we'd have 7, 8 landlords coming after us for money. Like, I don't even know what we would do. But what I do know is that I wouldn't let that keep me down. I know that somehow I would go get a sales job where I could sell something that's really expensive, that I could make a lot of money, and I would get us out of the hole. Like, that's what I would do. And I think about this every once in a while. Somebody actually asked me, what would you do, like, if your businesses went under or whatever? I'm like, I would get into sales. Duh. Like, I would sell something really expensive that I could make the most commission, and I would just try to get back on track. Or I would get back into business based on my experience and partner with somebody else. But I think the mindset of reprogramming is, you need to get around people that are better than you. Same thing with your marriage. If you don't have a great marriage, get around people that have a good marriage. And there's no way to really tell how good the marriage is unless you know somebody for a long time, because they could be hunky-dory in front of you when you're out to dinner, and then when they get in the car, they're just fighting and arguing the whole time and blah, 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 right? So, but ideally, you get around people that are better than you. If you make $50,000 a year and you have goals and dreams, get around somebody that's making $150,000 a year or $250,000 a year. I mean, listen to our episode with, I think it was called Our Story, the second episode, how we met Steve and Shai, and we got around people like them who were making a lot more than us, and they allowed us to dream a lot farther. So we were able to shift our mindset by being around people that were talking differently, spending their money differently, communicating with us differently. So I think that would be my biggest piece of advice to somebody that wants to reprogram their mind when it comes to finances, is you need to be around people that are better than you in every category.
That's a great tip. And I think, too, going back to what you said about it's how you grow up, for me, I think the biggest, and we've talked about this so many times, but the biggest hiccup for me when it comes to reprogramming my mind around finances and money is more so how I grew up in the church. I guess I always, and I'm not blaming the church, I'm so grateful for the way that I grew up and my faith-based community that I grew up in. But for so long, I heard that money was bad, or that.
But there was no premise to it. Nobody really explained why it was bad.
It's just always that verse that's taken out of context about the rich man not being able to enter heaven, right? It's easier for a needle. What is it?
Camel to go through the eye of a needle.
To go through the eye of a needle.
Than for a rich man
to enter into heaven.
Yeah, but the Bible talks more about money than any other topic.
Correct. Which I think that should be a whole other topic.
We'll be talking about the Bible and money. But the other thing that the Bible also says is the love of money is the root of all evil. It's not money that is the root of all evil. Right. It's the love. And I'm not a gambling man. But I would say, and I think a lot of people listening would say that people with a poor mindset love money, talk about money, consume money, and spend money way more than wealthy people and people that actually have it.
I agree 100%, because I would say there's this control aspect, right? Money controls you when you have a poor mindset. And I will be the first to say that, because I've been in this poor mindset for a while. And like I said, I'm still working on it. It's still a battle that I fight every day. But money controls me in a poor mindset just as much as it does, if not more, than somebody who has an abundance mindset. Because out of an abundance mindset, you're thinking about giving, you're thinking about generosity, you're thinking about what can I do with this money versus what do we need to save for? What if all of this happens? What type of savings do we need to have?
I just want to go on a vacation.
Or just like letting the budget. I've always been a budgeting girl, but you know why? Because there's safety in that. There's control in that. So whether it's budgeting when we needed to, I think there was a time and a place for it. When we were making $50,000 a year, there was a time and a place for that. And I still think there is a time and a place for budget. You need to be wise with your finances. The Bible is very specific about that.
Being a good steward.
Being a good steward of your finances.
Which is much different than being a manager.
There's plenty of verses that talk about managing your money,
but
though,
if you
too.
look at the Greek and the Hebrew, I know I'm going a little deep here, but if you look in that word, it's specifically talking about a steward, and the way that a steward is defined is someone that uses for opportunity.
Uses for growth.
And the word manager is used for just collection.
Sure, interesting.
Stable, status quo, sitting here, hoarding. Hoarding.
Right, and I don't.
That's a poor mindset.
Correct. 100%.
And if you read the parable in the Bible that Jesus gives these three servants different amounts of talents.
10, 5, 1.
Something like that. Yep. 10, 5, 1. And the lazy servant, the lazy manager, it says, hid it in the dirt and gave him back the one. And then that one went to the guy who got 10 and duplicated it and so on. Those guys stewarded. So it's much different when especially when you're talking the Christian realm, and we're going to dive into this on another podcast. We're going to dive specifically into what does the Bible say about money, about being a business owner and so on. That's going to be down the road, so don't get too excited. But yes, there was the same thing back when I was growing up. It was this taboo topic.
Money.
I didn't know anyone at the church that made any kind of money.
Because it was a secret, right? And
we didn't talk about money, sex, drugs, alcohol, none of that.
Right.
It was like all taboo. Jinx.
So all that to say, it has taken me years to reprogram that and the way that I grew up, and some things that happened to my parents later in the years when I was a teenager, and just those dynamics of wanting to hold money for comfort, which is so wrong and goes against everything that the Bible says. So working through that, and what does that look like? But I'm working on reprogramming my mind and having that abundance mentality, because Christ calls us to give and to have money to give and to steward money to give. So
yeah, that's what I would say is get around some people that are better than you.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah, get around some
James's
people that are better
tip.
than you.
People that have a healthy mentality. Don't find people like you. I like to do that, right?
Yeah.
Find people who are like really good at budgeting and saving and all that stuff. No, find people who are really good at, for me, really good at giving, who make money but who give it, who are looking for opportunities like that. So get around those people and work on your mindset and dive into what the Bible and what Scripture does say about money, because there's a lot. Talks a lot about money. All right, number 4. Collaboration versus competition. The scarcity mindset leads to jealousy and competition because you think you're in competition with everyone around you, where the abundance mindset looks at other people as a community, a network, a way to grow your business, but through other people. What would you say to that?
Slightly disagree.
Okay.
I think competition is very important.
Sure.
Healthy competition is very important.
Sure.
Competition in the aspect of keeping up with the Joneses is irrelevant, silly, stupid. I don't see any need for that. Doesn't mean I wasn't caught up in that when I was younger and had a poor mindset. But now it's competition, in my opinion, in business is, well, I mean, we got to crush the other cookie companies. If we don't crush the other cookie companies, then we're out.
Sure.
Right? So there's a healthy competition piece that I think should be had.
But there's not a jealousy aspect to that.
I don't care about their product. Their product stinks. Right? The competition is I want to crush them. I want them to be out of business. Maybe that's not right either. But you get my point. It's an athletic, it's a sporting type of competition. It's not a jealousy. I don't care about that. I think it's the mindset of I want to be the best.
Sure.
I want to be number one. I'm a very competitive individual.
But I would say we saw this early on with Crumble too. In the beginning, it was like, well, we want to be the best Crumble, and we want to sell the most cookies. And there is that healthy competition. However, when it came to needing help, needing tips and tricks, needing how do you do this, how do you order, guess who we were reaching out to? The other Crumbles that were doing those numbers, that were doing well. So it very quickly became this network of people that were willing to help us succeed, and that was because they had an abundance mindset. Correct. And I would say we kind of had a scarcity mindset to begin.
Maybe early on, yeah.
And then it developed into an abundant mindset because when we helped other people. So there does need to be that shift when it comes to business of an abundance mindset and creating that network of people.
And I think in the same time in marriage as well.
Yep.
Because, we've done this with other younger married couples in the past, had them over for dinner or went out to lunch or something and tried to speak into them because, what you don't know, you don't know. And so if you can put somebody under your wing or you can give some advice or some relationship advice, like, hey, I've heard a lot of people make this mistake. We made this mistake, so maybe you don't make this mistake.
Right, or helping them along in it because you've been
there.
You walked in it.
Yeah, so I think there's a lot of collaboration that can happen. Again, being that abundance mindset, having that positive attitude, that grateful attitude, that grateful mindset towards marriage as well, I think can help grow other marriages. And that's ultimately what we want to be doing here, is we want to be encouraging people to have a great marriage, to have a great business, collaborate with other married business owner people who you feel like are doing well. Get interested in other people's industries. For me, for the longest time, I was just focused on Crumble and just the Crumble industry. And this next time we head up to New Hampshire, we're going to try to get a whole bunch of different business owners together in different industries, different networks, and collaborate and talk. We're literally, this business thing is a game. And the more people that are playing the game together, the more we're all going to rise and win together. Obviously, there's probably going to be some friendly competition. But thankfully, there's nobody in the cookie space up where we're at. And so, I think you've got to understand that there's going to be more benefit if you collaborate with people than if you just hide your secrets and hoard them to yourself.
And I would say, again, same thing with marriage. The moment that you think you're above a certain topic or you're above a certain thing, or that won't happen to me in my marriage, or me and my husband never argue like that, or we don't do that, or that could never happen to me. That's like the second that you put those walls down and that you have that mindset of I guess, competition, sort of in its own way, but that mindset of like, I'm above that. That's when I think the devil attacks. That's when you better be watching, because that could happen to your marriage. And believe it or not, you and your husband might get into that type of an argument, or that might happen to you. So I would say, be careful of that mindset and have those people, again, surround yourself with those people that have that marriage that you want to achieve, or you've seen them walking a path that you would like to walk, or that you want your marriage to look like. So just like in the money aspect, you want to have mentors around money. I would say you want to have mentors for your marriage. You want to have that couple that you look up to and that you ask questions and confide in and hold you accountable. It is very hard to find.
So you need to be careful. You need to be careful who you go to and so on. And we're definitely not perfect.
No.
Not even close.
And I say those things out of like we've experienced those things. So
for sure.
It's important to have those people though as connections instead of, like James said, kind of like isolating yourselves. All right.
So collaborate.
The last one. Self-limiting beliefs versus empowerment, or the rule of confidence.
I don't have a problem with that.
Overcoming imposter syndrome, or empowering self-talk, pushing past comfort zones. How would you say that you've seen that in your professional life help you with an abundance mindset?
I mean, I think it's the classic statement where or the motivational speaker asks you to raise your hand, and he says raise it as high as you possibly can. So if you're listening to this, raise your hand as high as you possibly can, right? As high as you can, right? And then he says, okay, now raise it just a little bit higher, just a tiny bit higher, okay? And if I was going to give you $1 million, just raise it a little bit higher. So you just raised it 2 extra times. So you did your best. You raised it as high as you could, but then you did it 2 more times. And so I think that's the mindset. It's also the idea of without going through trials or challenges or changes, you'll never get better.
Never grow.
You'll never grow, right? And so you have to understand that if you have goals and dreams beyond just status quo life, mediocrity, then you need to expect hard times. Mm-hmm. But what's great about those hard times is you will be 10 times better, 10 times happier, 10 times more vibrant. I'm just using 10 as a round number here, but who knows? You could be 50 times happier once you get through that crap. The question is how long is the crap going to take? Right. For us, 3.5 years. Right. And still going sometimes. It's off and on crap now.
But your character is refined. You see your character grow. You see your mindset change. You see without
that's why I'm saying
those trials, that doesn't happen.
You don't grow. You don't change. You don't get to be a better person. I think that's the challenge with today's society is, especially the young generation, is they don't understand that piece. Sure. You won't be given a 6-figure job, mid 6 figures, 300, 400, 500 grand. You won't be given that type of a job until you've reached a certain level of character and integrity. I don't know if you disagree with that, but it doesn't matter who you're working for. If you're working at JP Morgan, if you're working for a small business owner, you aren't worth that because you haven't gone through the things that is required to get to that position.
Correct. And they haven't changed you enough. They haven't refined you enough. Maybe you've gone through them, but you just kind of...
You may not have learned anything.
Zoned through it
You may not have learned anything. And so if you're going through these things and you're learning, because there's people that even work for us right now that have gone through a lot of stuff, but their mindset hasn't fully changed. So they're still kind of at this status quo, and we're still talking about the same things over and over and over again. And it's like, okay, well, if you truly desire to grow, I should have to coach you on this one time and then never talk to you about it again. Right. Because you learned, you grew, your character's changing, your integrity's growing, all these things. And so, and I had a mentor that said that too, is, dude, your income will never go up until your character goes up. And so my character grew, and it's not perfect, but my character grew and grew and grew. And then what happens is, this is what's really interesting, and you probably will recognize this, but as your character grows, right, your character starts to grow, the money and the finances quickly follow almost like a rocket ship. And so the question is how quickly do you want to compress that time in your marriage and in your business? How quickly do you want to grow that character within your marriage? How quickly do you want to grow and go through that crap with your business so that the finances, the leadership skills, the followership skills, and the team can grow and can thrive.
And I would say, too, as your character grows, so do opportunities. Because more opportunities arise, people notice the character change.
100%.
They notice the growth, and they're like,
Who's this guy? Who's
hey,
this girl?
That person I think would be a really good fit for this role that I have in my business. So I would say more opportunities arise when you allow that character growth, too. Mm-hmm. But we're our own worst critic, right? It's talking about the self-limiting belief. And again, as somebody with a poor mindset, I limit myself. No one else is limiting me. I'm my own worst critic.
Your worst enemy.
I am my own worst enemy. I don't allow myself to grow. I go through trials and don't learn any lessons. Like, that is all self-development and a mindset shift. Mm-hmm. I am called, therefore I'm equipped to do what I'm called to do. Mm-hmm. I'm the only one that's in my own way. And so I think a lot of times we got to get out of our own way.
Correct.
We got to let things happen. We got to take on the trials, grow from them, learn from them. You know, we need to be reading books. We need to be reading the scriptures. We need to be reading. We need to be writing. We need to be
listening to great podcasts.
Listening to great podcasts. We need to be having those mentors that are pouring into us in order to take those growth steps.
Sure.
Or this isn't going to happen. We're going to stay stuck in this poor mindset. Mm-hmm. How would you say having this like I don't want to say self-confidence because I don't really like those words, but
confidence.
The confidence and encouraging confidence, how does that help us in marriage to have an abundance mindset?
Well, I didn't coin this, someone else did. Competence breeds confidence.
Sure.
So if I'm competent about my job or my business, I will be confident. Through my confidence, people will realize I know what I'm doing. So it's the same thing. It's the same thing in your marriage. If you're competent with your wife, meaning you understand your wife, you listen to your wife. I don't mean like you understand she's a female, right? Duh. But you understand who she is. You understand her personality. You understand her love languages. You communicate with her. You talk with her. You understand she wants time and all these things.
Yeah.
That makes you competent with your wife, which makes you confident with your wife when it comes to communication, when it comes to figuring things out and growing with each other. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's where I would say that, like I know you very well. Like we know each other really, really well. So we're very confident with each other. We're very communicative with each other. Early on in our marriage, it wasn't like that. Yeah. And we used to have a lot of friction, and we used to have a lot of non-communication, to be honest. And it's the same thing in our business. Mm-hmm. If I'm competent with how to ball cookies and how to make cookies, or if I'm competent on how to set up an entity structure and how to set up a business from the top down, then I'm confident in that. And like you said, people will recognize that and opportunities will start to happen. Now, a lot of people will be like, you're just lucky, man. How'd you do that? No way. You're just lucky. Well, you may think it's lucky, but in reality, it's not. What happens is you're building this competence and you're growing it over time and people recognize that. So.
Well, and the competence comes most of the time from learning.
Correct.
So failing forward, figuring it out, doing the hard stuff, making mistakes, fumbling your way through it is how you get the competence, right? Like you don't know something until you've done it, right? You're learning things. So that's what I would say. Learn, get to know your business, get to know your spouse so that you have that confidence. I didn't have that confidence early on in our marriage. I was afraid of what you would say or what your response would be because I didn't know you. Mm-hmm. Didn't know you in and out, didn't know your responses. So get to know your spouse, get to know your business so that you have that genuine confidence and are able to have that abundant mindset.
And I think that will grow your marriage and that will grow your business substantially. To move from the poor mindset to an abundance mindset. And then you won't be scrounging for every dollar. You'll be generous with it.
It just all is, it's all connected.
Yeah, 100%.
Business, money, confidence, marriage, all of it needs to have an abundant mindset. So I'll keep working on it. You keep working on it.
I'm going to keep working on it. And we thank you guys for being with us on this episode. We'll catch you on the next one.